Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Bridges. I am a credit expert, financial consultant, and life changer. And I welcome you to Conversations About Credit with Chris. This is a platform that we're going to do just that. We're going to have conversations. We're going to talk about credit. A lot of those conversations we either don't have or didn't have when we were growing up. And we want to make sure that we do that. Credit is so important. It's so vital to our financial freedom. Credit is used to evaluate everything from where you work to where you live, to how much you pay to drive your car, to what interest rates and fees you're going to pay. And so it is so critical that we understand how to win at the credit game. And so this lab that we dedicate the opportunity to really have a discussion. Now, the times might move around, so do me a favor and subscribe and follow me. And at the top, you all know if you've been on Blab, you can follow each other. So make sure that you follow each other. And if you're watching the replay, you can still go back, I think, and find out who's talking on Blab. But most importantly is to make sure that you're following this broadcast, because we want to be sure that you know when we're on so that you can invite your friends. Now, let's do that right now together. Let's go on over and tweet out and let everybody know that we are on right now for Conversations About Credit with Chris. And listen, I would just appreciate you supporting the cause. My mission every day, my purpose and my mission is to impact generations by educating about the principles of credit. Well, I can't impact generations by myself. So I need some credit soldiers out there. So folks that are also committed to living better and sharing and helping others to live better. And so if the more people you tell to get on these broadcasts, to get their answers, that helps me to fulfill my mission. And maybe in a small way, it's helping you to do what you want to do as well as sharing with others. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, go ahead and tweet it out. And even if you're watching the replay, I'm not sure if you can, but if you're watching the replay, share the information as well. At least if nothing else, people can connect in with us in this platform. And they can also make sure that they subscribe and follow and they can get the information. So let me tell you some ground rules about this conversation. People are going to come in and out. It looks like 39 people have at least, found something interesting about this title, something about the title. I would venture to guess it's the word credit. Or it could be me. It could be Chris. But let me just not be too selfish. It's probably something about that word credit. And so we want to make sure that, we can get them back in, or make sure that those same people, you guys know Blab. Blab is fun. I love it. I jump in and out of people's conversations. Not to say that the conversation isn't a good one. It's just that maybe there's something else that's drawing my attention. So we know that that's going to happen throughout our day to day. So thank you all very much for joining again. Thank you, Theo. Make sure that you connect with each other. So listen, here are the ground rules for the conversation. I can't have a conversation by myself. So I need you all to participate. If you have a question, you are more than welcome to jump in the seat. The seat is open. Thank you. You can jump in the seat and ask your question. Now, you know what I say. The question might be a question for you, or let me lift my glasses so you all can see my face. The question might be for one of your friends. Right? So it doesn't matter to me. I don't care who the question is for, because I know that wherever I go, if I'm out speaking or I'm talking to somebody one-on-one, there's no bad question when it comes to credit. Every question is good, because there's somebody else that might be either live or watching the replay that wanted to get that question, but they couldn't maybe get on, or, they weren't available. A lot of times when I do radio, the lines get just packed and people just can't get through. But they're able to get a lot of their questions answered because somebody else asked that question. And so don't be shy. So here's how it works. The seat will stay open. If anybody wants to jump in the seat and participate with me, you're welcome to do so. Again, if it's a question about credit, whether it's consumer or business credit, you're welcome to ask that question. Now, if you just want to come in the seat and chat with me, come on in the seat and chat with me. But if you want a good answer, like an answer that you won't stump me on, then I would stick to the subject of credit. But if you just want to chat, come on in and chat with me. We can chat as well. Also, if you want to ask a question, you can also do /Q over in the chat feed, and /Q will submit the questions to me. We'll be able to put them up and answer them for everybody. So now make sure that you kind of talk to me over there. Thank you all so much for joining, but talk to me in the feed. I don't want to have a conversation by myself. So I need to know that you're listening. Give me some amens and, oh, that was good, or yay, yay, or something like that. Now, I may share something with you that I think is worthwhile for you to keep track of, and I call them writer downers. Okay, so if you hear me say that's a good writer downer, that's a good note taker. So you might want to do that as well. Okay. So, thank you, Gail. Gail is showing you how to do it on Blab. That's my good friend, Ms. Gail Turner Brown. She's the founder of SB and TV, Small Business Television. And so you want to connect with her as well. Her logo is up at the top, her profile. So make sure you connect with her and know she's got some amazing subjects and people that come in on Blab. Tonight, I think, is John Leslie Brown as well. He comes on at 9:00. So you definitely want to make sure that you connect with Gail so you can catch that broadcast. All right, well, let's get the party started. We're having a conversation. Let me jump it off by answering a couple of questions. This little thing is driving me crazy in my ear. I tell you, Gail, I'm going to have to invest in some real equipment here if I'm going to be doing these blabs. One of the things, let me start off by answering a couple questions that I've already got this week that were asked of me for this broadcast. Because sometimes people, maybe timing wise, they can't get on, but they have questions. So you can do that as well. You can run on over to the website. So it's conversations. Let me put that in. Conversationsaboutcredit.com. If you go over to conversationsaboutcredit.com, there is a pop-up window and you can submit your questions to me as well. So again, even if you're watching the replay, clearly I won't be live, but you can still go over to the website, conversationsaboutcredit.com, and in the pop-up window will say connect with us, or send a message and shoot me a message and I'll have your questions. All right. So Gail is kicking us off as well. So let me put Gail's questions up and then I'll come back and ask the questions since she's on. I'll ask the questions that were also asked of me. So Gail has a question. It says, how long will it take to build? I'm going to assume you mean building credit. So it really depends. Sometimes you might be in a place where you are building like from scratch, like you're, a younger adult and you're just establishing credit. In that case, it's really just probably about 1 or 2 cycles. And what I mean by cycles, that's reporting cycles. So we open up an account, that creditor reports to the credit bureaus, whichever one, 1, 2, or all 3. And then that information then starts to build a profile. And usually it takes a few of those reporting cycles, and then we start to establish credit. It could be as quickly as the very first one, but usually if you want to really get that momentum going. Now, I will tell you that 15% of your possible score is going to be held back a little bit because you've just started establishing credit. So as a new, younger person establishing credit, you might not get no 800 when you open up your first account because you have not had credit established for a while. So you have what we call a thin file. So for a new person starting out, might take 1 or 2 reporting cycles. You'll get that momentum going and you should get a score. Now, for those of us who are a little more seasoned and maybe we are looking to rebuild our credit, that will depend, of course, on the rest of your profile. So if you've got 5 pages worth of collections and then you open up 1 new credit card, say, for instance, or you're getting a car, well, that 1 positive account might not really override everything about the negative. So it might take you a little bit longer to start to kind of build credit. Okay, so I see you were talking about what? Okay, so that was a good question for everybody. So that was about consumer credit. Gail was asking me specifically about business credit. So business credit is totally different. Same concept, same principle, somewhat the same type of evaluation regarding our credit worthiness. The difference is business credit is based solely on the payment history. So how well did you pay your bill as a business owner? So same kind of answer, though, that business credit can be established in the 1 or 2 reporting cycles. So very similar. You got to get an account opened. Make sure that the account is reported. Mom and pop's printer down the street might not report to the business bureau. So you want to make sure that whatever account you're opening up for the business, that it is a reported account to the credit bureaus. And then the same kind of thing applies. A couple of billing cycles, you'll see that account reported, and you'll start to establish. You can actually get your business credit established and build really, really quickly and get that score up high. So for business credit, you want to get like a paydex score. You got to ask me these questions if you want me to go a little deeper. So right now I'm answering the question, but your paydex score is the score model for Dun & Bradstreet. And as soon as you get a couple of positive reporting cycles, you'll see that paydex score start to go up. Your target is 80. You want above an 80 for a paydex score. All right. So that was my very first question. Again, the seat is open if you want to come in and have a dialogue with me and maybe get your answers or, someone questions answered for a friend. You want to make sure that you jump in the seat. If you want to just send a message over for me to, I see the thing about the website. If you want me to send a message over, then do the /Q. So the website that somebody asked is Conversations About Credit. How simple can that be? Conversationsaboutcredit.com is the website, so you can go over and get some information, and you can also submit your questions right there. Now, I can't be multitasking too much, so I'm not going to say that I'm going to answer that question. If you submit a question from the website, I ain't going to see it right now because if I start going in my email, I'm going to get distracted. So if you have a question for me, you got to send me a question through this chat. And then, later you can send a question over to Conversations About Credit. By the way, when you go visit the website, we're in the process of transitioning over from Living on Top, but we do have some really, really great opportunities for you to stay connected with us through our membership. So if you are in need of restoring your credit or looking for some fantastic financial tools, then go on over to conversationsaboutcredit.com because there's an opportunity for you to get some services at really good discounted prices. So you want to make sure that you do that. Conversations About Credit with Chris. All right. Y'all let her focus, please. Oh, I'm going to let that go, Gail. All right. So another question that I have, I'll go pin this up, is what is paydex? So I said, if you want to know what is a paydex score, you got to ask the question. So paydex is the scoring model for Dun & Bradstreet, D&B. That is the largest business repository. So if you are a business owner and you thought D&B stood for Dave & Buster's, you need to really make sure that you stay in this blab because D&B stands for Dun & Bradstreet. And the paydex is their scoring model. It's like FICO is for on the consumer side, or like Beacon on the consumer side, right? So paydex is the scoring model, business credit model for Dun & Bradstreet. That's what it is. And you want to have a paydex model, a paydex score of above an 80. Now, here's a little free one. And so this might be a good writer downer as it relates to business credit. So for those who may be on this line or on this blab and have businesses, you want to understand that business credit does not fall under the same governing body as consumer credit. So if you have business credit and you've had some late pays, slow pays, you can't go dispute them. You can't go call up a credit repair company and have your business credit cleaned up. It doesn't work that way. Business credit, pretty much, you're going to have to work directly with your creditors and have positive pay going forward, and then work with your creditors and have them go back. You cannot be disputing your business credit profile like you can your consumer. Now, your personal credit, dispute that stuff all day long, right? So, and there's a process and a methodology with that. But you need to understand, as a business, when you start establishing business credit, be committed to it. Pay your bills on time, because once you have bad business score, it's pretty much very difficult to get that back on track. All right, Gail, I think I answered these questions. Let me go over. If you have any other questions, submit your questions. I know that you do, and tell your friends to come over. Okay, we did that one already. Let's put the other one up. How much funds can people expect to get when you build your business credit? Oh, good question. So here's the deal about business funding, and I'm going to answer it the best way that I can. If you are an 18-year-old and you graduated from high school and you don't really have any type of income or credit established or credibility out there or collateral, do you really expect, maybe you've been added on as an authorized user on your parents' credit card, like I did for my kids when they were in college. So maybe you did that, and so you've got a high credit score, right? But you're not really credit worthy, but you got a high score. Do you expect to buy a house? Would the mortgage loan officer be the first place that you would go for someone in that type of profile? Probably not, right? You've got to get out there a little bit. You've got to maybe get a job, maybe have some consistency. Well, as a business owner, you can establish business credit, but credit is not going to be the only criteria for you to get your hands on some funds, because you can have a couple of vendor accounts set up, pay the bills on time, and have a high paydex score, but you have no revenue. But you have no collateral. You know what I mean? And so in turn, when it comes to funding, they're going to look at a number of factors. They're going to look at your credit worthiness. They're going to look at your assets and your collateral. They're going to look at your revenue. So, you got to kind of have something to be brought to the table. Sometimes on the business side, you can get unsecured credit cards with a really high personal credit score or a good business credit score, but they're really going to want to see some other ways for you to get some money. So the rule of thumb, kind of in general, though, to go back to answer the question, usually if you're building business credit in about a 6-month period, if you're doing everything right, you got all the accounts set up right, they're all reporting correctly, you're paying them before the due date, typically in about 6 months, you might be able to get access to about $50,000, especially if you're doing it the right way. So if you're a business owner, welcome, Turk. Is that my friend, Turk? If you're a business owner and you want to learn more about establishing and building business credit, they're going out there to conversationsaboutcredit.com and send me a message so that we can connect, and I'll walk you through that a little bit more. All right, conversationsaboutcredit.com is the website. So those are the questions I have so far. Ask. Thank you so much, Ms. Gail. Ask. You guys want to know whether it's for your business credit or your personal credit. How you going to know if you don't answer the question? All right. So here's a couple questions, though. So for those who might be watching, maybe you already submitted your questions to me, or maybe you're going to watch the replay because you couldn't get on today. I want to make sure that I get your questions answered. So the first question is, the first question was asking if you can get bankruptcies and liens removed from your credit report. So this particular person wanted me to help them understand how you can get such negative things removed off your credit report. And so here's a simple answer to that. Everything negative legally can be removed. Now, let me preface this by saying a few things. Number one, when you get negative things off your credit report, if you're following the Fair Credit Reporting Act, everything is governed under that particular federal law. That means that it is either inaccurate, incomplete, or unverifiable. Just those 3 reasons. It doesn't mean that you just don't want to see it anymore, or you paid it and now it should go off your credit report, or, I just don't think it's fair. It's been 3 years. Why is this stuff still there? Nah, that stuff don't count. It has to either be inaccurate, incomplete, or unverifiable. So the law does not preface what it is. It could be a late payment. It could be a past due, which is negative on a credit report. It could be a repossession, a collection, a charge off. It could be any of that, right? So when you get negative things removed off your credit report, though, if it had a balance, what you need to understand is you still owe it. I had this conversation last night. I said, listen, we can get a lot of things off your credit report through the process of disputing and opening up investigations, but it does not mean that you don't owe the debt. So if you are running around and you think, okay, these 3 things or half the things on my credit report are gone, if they had balances on them, you still owe the debt. They're just not reported. Now, albeit that's a fantastic thing, because if you don't have this negative stuff on your credit report, it does help your score to significantly increase, but it doesn't mean you don't owe it. So if you get a judgment off and you still had a balance on there, you better still pay that judgment, okay? So that means you don't owe it. So, but yes, everything negative, no matter what type of account, whether it is a collection, a charge off, or a late payment. And I think that was a great question, because a lot of times we think, oh, I can only get these medical collections removed, but you can actually get anything negative removed. Now, I'm saying a preference on that to say, that just because you have something, negative removed, again, you could have a really old account removed and you won't see this big jump on your score. But if you've got a negative account within the last couple of years, you should see a change in your score if you get it deleted. So that's the answer to that one. All right. The other question that I had this week wanted me to go over the differences between collections and charge off. And I'm going to come back and I'll answer your question, Theo, real quick. So they wanted me to explain the differences between a collection and a charge off. And here's my answer. From a payment perspective, the expectation of you paying your bill, there's no difference. So you owe a charge off just like you owe a collection. What happens with a charge off is it was an account that went into default or delinquency like a collection, but they wrote it off on their books. So they just wrote that debt off. It's an accounting principle that company took advantage of. It doesn't mean that we don't owe it. It just means that they wrote it off on their books. Okay. So if you have a charge off or collection, you still have to actually pay both of them. And I'll tell you, all things equal, dates are the same, amounts are the same. Pay your charge off first. Your charge off weighs more heavily than a collection. All right. Let me answer another question. Whoops. Amen. So question here, some bad times in the past, so several credit cards with large balances. What is the best way to pay those down? Smallest cards first or largest ones? Great. Absolutely good question. So let's talk, because that's a very common question. Here's my answer. First of all, let me go back and make sure you understand that the goal or the target for credit cards. What happened to my... Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Y'all, the question basically was, I got a lot of, credit cards that kind of went bad, large balances. What do I pay first? The rule that we want to get with credit cards is that they are below 30%. Now, don't gag y'all out there. I know that, they might be like 30%. How can I get that done? That is your target. So 30% below, and below is the target, right? However, even if you try to get those credit cards down below 50% and then below 40% and then ultimately below 30%, that's the target we want to go at, below 50%. So how do we do it and which ones do we tackle first? If you can tackle your smaller balances first, that will help you. And what I mean by that is the gap. So look at your limit and look at your balances. Remember that ratio. We want to be below 30% or at least below, at a max, below 50%. Because once you get your credit card balances below 50%, your score will start to increase. And then when you get them down below 40%, your score will increase a little bit more. Below 30%, you're really on target. Okay. So what you want to do is maybe look at your credit cards and look at which one is, I can get to my goal a little faster. So which one has the lowest or the smallest gap between the limit and the balance, and then focus on getting that one below 50%. All right. Don't try to pay a $10,000 credit card when you could have paid off 3 at $100. Get the ones with the smallest gaps that you can pay down. Now, here's another tip with regards to credit cards. Everybody's credit card opens up a statement. So your statement starts at a particular date. Now, your statement ends at a particular date. That end date is not always the same that coincides with your payment due date. So most people know their due date, right? You got an idea. It's around the 1st or the 28th or whatever. You know your due date. But the cycle date may not coincide exactly with your payment date. What you want to start understanding is, what is my cycle date? Because you want to start paying your credit cards earlier in the cycle. Remember, credit card interest rate is based on average daily balance. So if I make my minimum payment earlier in the cycle, I'm knocking out 30 days worth of interest. So that if you just make an adjustment to when you pay your credit cards, that would help you to also put more money towards your principal. Now, also, got to pay more than the minimum. If you put it in any type of debt calculator and you pay the minimum on any credit card, it will take you 40. That credit card will be here after we're gone. Certainly after I'll be gone. So you got to pay more than the minimum. But if you start adjusting your payment dates, you'll see that more of your money will go down on the principal. So maybe say, for instance, your cycle starts on the 1st. go ahead and make your minimum payment on the first, and maybe a week later, you put some extra on there. Okay. So you're always paying at least the minimum, knock that out, and then put a little bit more. So, those are a couple of strategies. Again, pay the accounts, the credit cards that have the smallest gap between that 50% threshold and your and the limit. Now, if all of them are maxed out and they're all about the same, then you want to focus on your higher interest rate accounts first. Okay. So it really, when people ask that question, all these dynamics you have to take into consideration. So all things equal, pay your ones with the highest interest rates, because you're going to, that's going to cost you more money to have those cards. All right. Theo wants to know, what are your thoughts about credit.com? So credit.com is a free consumer site for Experian, if that's what you're talking about, Theo. So if you are, give me some props or tell me yes. So each of the credit bureaus have a free consumer site, consumer monitoring site. Like we know that TransUnion has Credit Karma, which started off just on TransUnion, and it's now on TransUnion and Equifax. So the bureaus kind of have their own. Listen, there are like tons of consumer credit monitoring sites out there. You can sit around one day and open up an account with each and every one of them. And I promise you, when you do that, your score is going to be different probably across each and every one of them. So everybody is in the game, right? Some of these consumer monitoring sites have monthly fees. You're not paying to get your report. You're paying for the monitoring service itself. So some of them have fees. Some of them don't. And so it really just depends on what you're looking for. Some of them are more detailed. Oh, I thought that was for me. Is that a welcome pretty lady for me, Gail, or for somebody else? Anyway, some of them have more detail. Some of them have less detail. So what you want to be careful about for any of these consumer sites, and credit.com, even one of them, is that it's giving you the most accurate information. Now, keep in mind, when you get your credit report once a year from annualcreditreport.com, and you only can get it once every 12 months, but when you get your credit report from the bureaus directly, you are getting it from the source. That is the most detailed information about your credit profile that you're going to get. All right. So at least make sure you're getting that once a year, because after that, when you're monitoring every month from one of these consumer monitoring sites, you're getting it now secondhand, or even in some cases third hand. So the information might not be as accurate. All right. So make sure that you at least get foundationally, get your report from annualcreditreport.com. And then if you want to just monitor and see what's going on month after month, which you need to be doing, don't be waiting once a year and get your credit report. You don't know what's going on in the whole year. Somebody could have stolen your identity. You could have had erroneous late payments. I mean, don't rely on a denial before you know that there's something wrong. So you need to go out there and be checking your credit report regularly. One of the times I'm a Fox correspondent about credit and consumer finances. And one of the times I was out there, we were talking about checking your credit regularly. And I had a client who didn't know that her ex-husband had co-signed for a car 3 years before she ever found out, because she never checked her credit report. Now, so don't let that happen to you. Anyway, so that's my thought about credit.com is, just like any of the others, just make sure you've got some, it's up to date and it's accurate. Some of them just aren't as accurate, but they're good for just monitoring and kind of seeing what's going on. All right, so we're going to answer that question. I think those are my questions. I've already given out the website again. So if you've just joined me, thank you so much. I know that Blab is a place that you can jump in and out. So something about this title, really interests you. And I appreciate you coming in, and thank you so much. This is really an opportunity for you. It's not about me. I know all these answers. This is for me to just make myself available to answer your questions about credit and to have a conversation. The website, so we can continue to have a conversation outside of today's Blab, is conversationsaboutcredit.com. So it is conversationsaboutcredit.com. So just going out there, connect with me. We've got some great service and programs that are out there as well. And so you can get, and you can also register for a personal consultation as well. All right. So let me answer this other question. Thank y'all so much for asking me these questions, because I can't have a conversation by myself. And if anybody wants to jump in the seat, you can jump in the seat too. All right. So Stephen wants to know, what is the deal with all these different types of credit scores, and which should we focus on? You asked the right question. Thank you so much. I mean, I need to be paying for folks to be asking me some of these questions. That was a good question. Thank you so much. All right, here's my answer. It depends. It depends. It depends on what it is that you are leveraging your credit for. So if you want to buy a house, then you have to make sure that you are looking at the credit that the lenders are pulling. So if here's the deal. You can get your credit report from all these different sources, and you need to understand each industry has a different credit profile, meaning that lenders, mortgage companies, the housing industry, they're typically using the FICO models way back for versions 4 and versions 5. Version 9 is out now. So they're going back to older versions, but that's what the housing industries are using. Credit card companies are using a different FICO model. Sometimes they're using a beacon model. Car industries are using a different model. Insurance companies, by the way, if you didn't know that the premiums that you're paying for your car insurance and your housing and rental insurance is based on your credit score. They're using a different model. The consumer monitoring services are using a different model. Typically, those are the more up-to-date models. So let's say, for instance, FICO, Fair Isaac Corporation. They're typically using, those consumer monitoring sites are using the more up-to-date FICO models. That's why sometimes those scores are a little bit higher. And then you go to the lender to buy a house and you're like, what the hey? What happened to my score? It's because they're using different models. So my answer, Stephen, is just understand that depending on where you're, sourcing your report from, who's looking at you, could depend on which model is used to calculate your score. So your score, unfortunately, could be different. The key is focus on the content and not so much the score. So if you focus on making sure that everything is paid on time, if you focus on making sure that you've got good ratio with your balances and that you've got history of credit and that you've got a good diversity of credit, if you focus on the content, then your score just naturally will increase. I mean, it's not like you're going to have a 800 on Credit Karma and a 400 somewhere else. You're going to see that your scores are should be in the range, give or take. Maybe I've seen the variations 50 points sometimes, but it's going to kind of be relatively close. So if you just focus on the content and not so much the score, then you'll be okay, because that means your score will be improved or will, continue to be higher because your content is managed well. So hopefully that answers your question. Again, if you want to buy a house, though, you've got to look at your report the way the lenders look at it. They're using that same model. They cannot use your Credit Karma or credit.com report. Now, myfico.com for a consumer site is going to be kind of relatively close, probably one of the closer ones to the lender industry. Now, you only can get 2 of the 3 bureaus, but it'll give you an idea of what your score looks like. Credit Karma is not going to match up to the lenders. I can tell you that. All right. So thank you so much for asking me that question. So it looks like Navy Cop has USAA. I do too. So great resources. A lot of the credit card and banks are now offering services where you can go in. I know on Discover, when I get my statement, I get my credit score as well. So a lot of them are really, really being more in tune to keeping you abreast. For a couple of years now on the credit card statements, they also have those debt calculators. They'll tell you, hey, you keep paying me $5 a month, you're going to be paying me until your grandchildren are going to college. So a lot of times they'll give you an idea of what to expect based on, and that's just really being more responsible for consumer debt, right? I mean, I was going to say they got us in debt, but y'all know that ain't the case. We got ourselves in debt. But things happen. So life happens. That's why, we're even doing this broadcast. Somebody like that idea. Yeah. All right. So listen, if you've just joined us, thank you so much. Do me a favor. This is Conversations About Credit with Chris. And if you could go share it with others, let them know to jump in. There is one question that somebody might have. And this is a no judgment zone. If I could trace out the 4 walls here in the studio, you will see that there's no question that is silly. There's no question that is inappropriate if you keep it to credit. You ask me some other questions, that's a different story. But we want to make sure that we tell folks to come in, because this conversation is not being had. We are not talking about credit, and yet credit is used for pretty much every financial decision in this country. Where you're working, what you're driving, how much you're paying, whether you can get something or not. A lot of people look at their credit score, and that is the defining, for them. That's the definition of who they are. It's your character, it's your integrity, all of that. You don't have to have credit to live. All right. You won't die with bad credit, but good credit makes life a lot easier. And so that's what it's about. We want to have a better life. At the end of the day, what I usually share with people is we can't change yesterday. I say this to somebody at least once a day. You cannot change yesterday. However, you can change tomorrow with the decisions that you make today. So the decisions you make today is based on the knowledge and information you get today, and then what you do with it so that your tomorrow can be better. And that's all we want to do. Share this information, have a dialogue about credit, answer some questions so that maybe there's something that you've been struggling with, and you might be able to get your answer right now, today, on this broadcast or any future broadcast of Conversations About Credit, and voila, you know what I mean? So don't be shy. So we got some more questions. Anybody has any more questions, make sure that you submit them. Now, I see that Rochelle is new to Blab. So welcome to Blab. I appreciate you being here. And what you want to do, Rochelle, if you have a question, you can either click on the seat and jump in and ask me a question. It could be for you. It could be for a family member. It could be for a friend. I don't know. But 56 people have found this subject here on Blab interesting. And so I think that we're on to something. So we want to make sure that we continue. So you can jump in and actually ask me a question and talk to me, or you can submit your question by putting /Q out there on the feed and ask your question. And so I see people are steady joining. And again, I want you to go on over to conversationsaboutcredit.com. We're actually streaming live. Hopefully it's up and running. We're streaming live right now. And we leave it up there for a few days. So if you did come in and you want to send somebody to that website, you could do that. That's also where you can submit questions to me. So if you have any questions about consumer or business credit, you can, thank you. I appreciate that. You can submit the questions right there as well, and then we'll get your questions. So we've gotten the several questions throughout the week. Let me go back and answer some of the other ones for you now as well. So you can submit yours, and I'll also answer some of these other questions. This is a good one. So somebody also wanted me to talk about the credit bureaus and to understand how they work, and do you owe them money? So here's the deal about the credit bureaus. I'm going to talk about the consumer side, which most people probably, we are individuals with credit scores. We may not all be business owners with credit scores. So we're definitely all consumers with a credit score. How it works, the credit bureaus are Equifax, Experian, and Equifax on the consumer side. Those are the three players. Now, no, we do not owe them money. They are repositories. They are simply reporting agencies, right? So they take whatever is being told to them. So if I'm a company that you owe, I'm going to tell TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian that you owe me. And then I'm going to also tell them throughout one time a month, it's typically reported one time a month, if you paid me or not. That's it. So if you paid me, I'm going to say, kudos. I got paid this month by this consumer. If you didn't pay me, I'm going to say, they missed a payment 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, which, by the way, 90 days is as bad as a charge off. So they just report the information about us. We don't owe them anything. So when we have a discrepancy about the information that is reported, we have to go back through them and follow the legal process in order to dispute that information. And then hopefully the outcome is that it's removed if it's inaccurate. That is one of the reasons. So they're not creditors, okay? So the reporting agencies are just repositories. They're going to say what they're told, which is also why they're not going to call you up and ask you first, like, hey, did you really, miss this payment? Or, hey, did you really have this collection? So the only way that you're going to know what they're saying about you is that you're looking at your credit report. You don't look at your credit report, you don't know what's being said about you. So you got to make sure that you're looking at your credit report and knowing what's being said so that you can then know how to address this, right? So it's kind of like if you think about, you remember when you were in school and you walked in a room and people, this might be still happening. I don't know. It doesn't happen where I go, but it might happen somewhere. But you walk in a room and people are whispering and then they're looking at you and either they're waving you to come on over and join the conversation, or they're kind of looking up like, talking about you. You know that they're saying something about you. You just don't know what they're saying, but you know that they're saying something about you. And if they're waving and coming on over, the likely is that they're saying something good about you, and you're excited. But if they're just kind of looking at you and turning their nose up and not inviting you to participate in that discussion, then they're saying something bad about you. Well, listen, credit agencies and creditors are doing the same thing. When they're inviting you in to participate, that means good stuff is being said about you. When they're not inviting you in to participate and they're shunning you out, that means bad stuff is being said about you. That's called a denial. Okay, so we want to have good stuff talked about us. And so you got to look at your credit report. All right, so I see a bunch of other folks have joined, and so I appreciate you here. Here's the deal. My name is Chris Bridges, by the way, if you've just joined me. Do me a favor. There are a lot of names across the top. I need to do that as well. Connect. Well, thank you. I received that. I appreciate that compliment. Thank you so much. But you may have come in because I'm hot, but stay in if I'm going to teach you something. So, especially if you're in the United States, I know that the credit system could be different in different parts of the world. And so Blab is such a awesome platform to meet people all around the world. So if you don't use the consumer credit model or business credit that we use here in the United States, then just stay on because I'm hot, right? But if you're in the United States, stay on because I could explain some stuff to you. So I appreciate you. Hey, Rod Griffin. I wonder if you are the Rod Griffin I think you are. If you're the Rod Griffin I think you are, could you tell me in the feed? Because I know a Rod Griffin. Anyway, all right, I'm getting distracted. Listen, guys, ask me questions. Anybody want to jump in the seat? If you want to jump in the seat and ask me a question about consumer or business credit, then I welcome you to do so. If not, I'm going to keep asking the questions that I had from this week. But I know that you guys, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I know that you all have some questions because hey, do me a favor. This is how we can engage. Put a 1 in the feed if your parents taught you about credit. So if you grew up in a household where credit and money was discussed and you were taught about credit, put a 1 in the feed. If you did not, like my household, I want you to put a 2 in the feed. So if you're watching me, engage with me in some way. So we got 1-ish, okay? I love that. So Davey Kopp said they were taught about credit. Rod said they were taught about credit. Everybody else so far is laughing, but I guess that means no, we're not taught about credit. All right. So that's interesting. Most of the time when I go out and speak and I ask that question, I might get 1 or 2, definitely no more than a handful. And so we got some work to do. And even if I answered a question today, maybe it was a question you were thinking about, but you know what? You might be in a position to be able to share that with somebody. You might be in a conversation with somebody else and you hear them say, hey, my credit score is not moving. I don't know what's going on. And you know what? I want you to send them to me, of course, because we do offer free assessments to be able to help people get on track. But maybe you don't remember who I am and you don't remember the website, but you might remember something that I've said that you can share with them. And so that's kind of what this is about. My heart's desire is that people get educated about credit. And so we want to make sure that it might be something that you learn or you pick up on these blabs, these conversations about credit with Chris. Maybe you watch the replay later. But the only way we can do this is to get the information up there. When you can't update your profile with your photo. Oh, okay. That's Gail talking to people. Sorry about that. All right. So we have any more questions that you guys have that are on the feed now? If you do, submit your questions. If not, I'm going to answer another question that I got this week. So folks are definitely sending in their questions. We want to make sure that you get an opportunity because maybe I don't answer it exactly the same for you. So you might want to jump in so we can dialogue. Sometimes I'll answer it. We want to make sure that it's exactly, what it is that you have. So you can jump in and dialogue dialogue. I'm going to answer this one question, and then we're going to jump on out of here for this segment. Also, conversationsaboutcredit.com is the website to go to stay connected with me outside of this blab. And we're testing times. So we've been doing these. We did the last one last week at night. I'm going to do today. It's like midday, and then we're going to try it again in the morning and sort of see what works with everybody. So here's the last and final question that I have. I get this question at least every day. Somebody once a day asks me this question. And so it might be something for those of you who are watching, which is, what happens to my account when I pay it off? Why is it not removed from my credit report? So one of the biggest myths about the credit system is you pay a negative account. I'm talking about negative stuff, maybe a collection or a charge off or a lien or a bankruptcy, not bankruptcy so much, but a judgment, basically something that was in default. So you pay it and then you go back and you look and it's like, what the hey, this is still on here. I paid it. Why is it still here? Well, because legally they don't have to remove it, right? So all they have to do legally is to update it. It says it was open and now it's paid. That's all they have to do. They do not have to remove. So just because you pay a defaulted or delinquent account does not mean it automatically must be removed from your credit report. So here's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you are negotiating with them for that removal. Maybe before you pay, you're in discussions with them and make sure. And then you want to also, if that's not the case, if they say, no, I can't, or they don't, then you can always open up an investigation and dispute. But the only creditor that I know of, if you're in this watching me and you're in my area, which is Maryland, you're in the DMV and you drive in the District of Columbia and you get a DC ticket, that's the only collection agency that in their process and procedures will automatically remove it from your credit report. Some other states or local, districts for parking tickets and things like that will, but not all of them, but definitely in DC, you could do that. Some hospitals, things like that, will go ahead and delete, but you'll have more favorable responses if you negotiate. So just by paying it does not automatically say that it will be deleted. All right. Yeah, Rod. Absolutely. So the credit report is the history. So remember, people are looking at our credit, which is already yesterday. It was 30 days ago when they're looking at it. So your credit report is showing your history, and that's how you're evaluated. Whether you're a consumer, so looking at the potential delinquency in the next 90 days, whether you're a business owner, vice versa, in the next 120 days for consumers, 90 days for business owners. So people are looking at our credit report. That is our history. They're looking to see how did you manage your credit back then, which could be last month, to determine how potentially you're going to manage your credit tomorrow. And so you want to make sure that, you are managing your credit. So that's why they only are reporting the history. Sometimes we get some bonuses. They take things off, but not. All right, here's a question for the audience. Does this topic help you at all? Do you find it beneficial? And would you like to learn more or hear more on this subject? So I guess we put a 1 in. So if this topic is beneficial, 60 people, 60, have jumped in this blab. So I would venture to guess that the topic must have something that's interesting, or they saw my picture like the other guy said I was hot. I receive it. Look, if whatever it takes, get the information to you. So if you want to put a 1 in the feed, if this information has been interesting and you find that the topic is beneficial, so we will obviously want to continue to do that. So if you do find that, put a 1 in. For me, I'll put a 2 in if you're like, no, I could be like baking a cake right now. Maybe there's something else you want to be doing right now. Feel free to go do it and put a 2 in so that we know that. All right. Also make sure that before everybody jumps off that you follow each other. Blab is a fantastic platform, but it is a platform that you want to use. It is a connector, right? This is how we collaborate and connect. So make sure that you connect with one another. Now, Rod also mentioned that one of the changes coming soon is that the bureaus will no longer be reporting things like parking tickets. Yes, but you know what, Rod? It sounds like you have a little knowledge about this space. And I can't wait for those changes to actually be implemented, right? So if you're like me in the industry, we're always announcing all of these great, wonderful new changes, and it takes forever to actually see them in mainstream. So I can't wait to actually have that happen where these things are not reported and where everybody, every industry actually catches up to all of these changes to the credit model. But thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll make sure that we tell y'all when it happens. So listen, I got to get out of here. I appreciate everybody. Okay, thank you, Rod. Yeah, I heard that, but we'll see. It's like the new FICO 9. We'll see when that actually comes out. Anyway, thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure sharing with you. Again, connect with me outside of this blab on conversationsaboutcredit.com. That's conversationsaboutcredit.com. And this is a platform for you to come and answer your questions. We're just getting it started, so we need to make sure that we get people and let people know that we're out here. So do me a favor and follow, subscribe, like, so that we can continue to let you know when we're on the air. Okay. And then I'll do the same. Until then, you guys stay blessed. Have a great one. And remember, credit doesn't define who you are. It just makes life a lot easier. So we want to make sure we get as much information as we can so we can live the very best life that we can. Until we come together, you guys have a blessed one. Take care. Bye-bye.